Good afternoon, Kurt Capra here with your daily recap for this Friday, August 4th. Hope you guys had a great trading day. And I mean, look, bottom line, we stayed within the range that expanded on Thursday. Not much happened. We did get the positive jobs report, and that exceeding expectations resulted in a market bounce or higher open here for the morning, but really didn't do much of anything after that. If we drill into the hourly chart here, you can see, the gap open really didn't change the picture much. We had a little push followed by a sell-off, and then ultimately we went sideways the rest of the day. So not a whole lot as far as market movement. Same thing with the Qs. They had a lot of sideways action here as well, where the daily chart remains stuck around this 8 and 21 period moving average. We'll see if we can get out of this here next week. But we are coming into the end of towards the end of the summer. Things are going to continue to slow down here. That should be met with pockets of strength and weakness, but by and large, I mean, we're not getting a whole lot of participation in the broader market, but we do have earnings season. We talked about Yelp and GoPro, among others, here this morning. We also mentioned JP Morgan and some bank names, which definitely saw some action. As we take a look to JP Morgan first, we cleared above this range that we had highlighted in the morning during the morning call express. So it gapped up above that. That opened the door to additional demand, which we did see come in, right? We had the nice push up in the morning, and then we sold off throughout the rest of the day. Definitely got an acceleration there on the Wells Fargo news, where they're indicating there could be additional fake accounts. And if we take a look at Wells Fargo, you'll see here was that sharp move lower, that big surge to the downside, which pulled other bank names with it. And again, that was all driven based on the news that came out suggesting that there are going to be additional fake accounts that were created. So reviving those concerns or issues, what have you. But as I said, that did pull down other bank names. Bank of America held in pretty well, however. And if you look at the daily chart, this actually closed one of the best closes here in the group of bank names. So this closing well right up into that resistance does suggest it's getting ready for continued strength here as we move forward into next week. So definitely keep an eye on some of these bank names, but they were definitely one of the sources of action and volatility here. As I mentioned, Yelp, we had this one gap higher, and it pushed up right out of the gate. You can see on the 15-minute, pushed up a little bit more, and then just went sideways the rest of the day, which is the concern that I had and that I voiced during the morning call express, saying that it was just a bit too much of a gap to really suggest that it was going to move higher with any real meaningful action. And so other than that first initial surge, it went sideways the rest of the day. That all being said, the fact that it didn't sell off, the fact that it held up, does suggest it can continue to move higher after a little bit of digestion here. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. And then also GoPro mentioned this one had a better chance of gapping and pushing, and that is exactly what happened. So if you were watching this one, it gapped up, consolidated the first hour or so of the day, and then broke out. If you were able to participate in that, nice job. Got a nice run out of that before it then went sideways and kind of drifted a bit lower into the end of the day. But all in all, it was a pretty nice day for GoPro, which seems to have also woken up, where if you look at the weekly chart, it's gapped up and pushed higher here over this recent resistance. So this actually has the potential to really start making a push back up. Looks like GoPro may be a name that revives itself here into the end of 2017 and going into next year. So we'll see what they do. But definitely an interesting chart pattern here, as it's now, as I said, seeming to have woken up. And then finally, we'll just talk about Tesla here real quick. This one actually had a pretty good day, really solid day, closing up near the highs of the day, taking out yesterday's high, and a decisive close that has now opened the door to a move back towards these prior highs around, just under 400, around, call it the 390 area. So that's something we'll definitely be keeping an eye on. I think this can continue to push higher here, coming off after the, the better than expected earnings. And so things are definitely looking up here for Tesla. So all in all, like I said, I mean, a quiet day, a quiet week overall from an individual name point of view. However, especially with regard to earnings, it has been more active. So being selective, being tactical could have definitely led to a successful week overall, while the broader markets in general have been pretty quiet, especially in the afternoons. But again, if you're not in the VTF, if you're not following along, definitely check that out, because as far as guidance goes, there's not a better place. So hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.